Namaste and welcome to Urban.chatterati. This is Abhinav Prakash. And today I'm joined by Narayani Aditi, who is an assistant professor of sociology at the University of Delhi. And she has recently submitted her PhD on the Dalit entrepreneurship in India. So we are here to discuss the state of Dalit entrepreneurship, the issue of a new ideological construct of Dalit capitalism, and what the government has been doing to promote the entrepreneurs from the deprived sections of the society. So Aditi, welcome to the show.
Namaskar, Abhinavji. Thank you so much for inviting me for this very interesting talk show which has come up, and I'm really fond of your term, urban.chatterati, which you have been using. It's very interesting, and it's a very interesting platform to start a new discourse. Like we are trying to engage into some sort of constructive discussion, I'm assuming that we'll do in this coming 30 minutes of which has been given to us.
Definitely, Narayani, and thanks for taking out time. So let's start with the basic issue itself. When we talk about Dalit entrepreneurship, or when we talk about Dalit entrepreneurs, what exactly do we mean? Do we mean the Dalits were self-employed in their hereditary professions? Or do we mean the Dalits or the people coming from the Dalit caste who are now opening up businesses and setting up industry, factory in new greenfield areas?
So to answer to that, traditionally, if we talk about Dalits have been the community of Shilpkar communities, as we say. So if you could see a painting that I have, it is from Dulari Devi. She's a Mithila artist who belongs to a Musar community from Darbhanga. So we have been a caste of skilled artisans, whether it is carpentry, whether it is painting, whether it is the art of Sikhi art, bamboo art, everything. We have been doing that. And now entrepreneurship has become this new buzzword. Basically, we have been the skilled caste. From the skilled, we have transitioned into an entrepreneurial caste. This is how I would like to say. With the coming of this entrepreneurship, Startup India, people want to recognize themselves as entrepreneurs. It's a new buzzword. I'll tell you, when I started doing my research, what do I mean by Dalit entrepreneurs is very important to understand. So when I started doing my research back in 2015, I was researching in Rathi and Jitwarpur, which are situated near Darbhanga, Bihar. So I met these artists. I was working with 30 Dalit women artists. I was working with them. They had the products, they had the skill, they had the material, but they were asking me where to sell it. Where is the access to the market? Where is the capital? We are looking for economic empowerment. We want economic independence. These were the exact questions. Ki Didi, we have everything here. What do we do next? This is here the concept, or I would say the notion of entrepreneurship comes in. Once, this socialist idea that the marginalized community can be uplifted with this whole idea of positive discrimination, that is not enough. We need people from Dalit community in the private enterprises. We need more people in the capitalist mode of production. We need more people where there is accumulation of capital. Without this whole facade that we have, the empowerment of the Dalits, which the other people are talking about, that we need to talk about the othering, the whole idea of the othering, of the empowerment of the othering. I completely disagree with this. It is not the othering. We need to talk about the mainstreaming and broad streaming of these Dalits. And how can that be achieved? That can be achieved by economic independence and by the entrepreneur activities. Because since we have been always engaging in these activities, therefore, that is how I started this whole journey of researching on Dalit entrepreneurs. Then in 2017, I finally started working with FICCI and MSME as a consultant, where I was engaged in this project which was about the promotion of Dalit entrepreneurship under the present form of government, in which they had sanctioned 490 crores for an annual, which was a huge amount. Later, we'll discuss that what are the various schemes and things which were done. This is basically what, apart from the egalitarian policies which are there, we need the complete mainstreaming and broad streaming can be brought about only through entrepreneurship. And this is the whole idea of Dalit entrepreneurship when we talk about it.
Yep, Narayani. But let's say when you did your PhD from JNU, right? Jawaharlal Nehru University.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we talk about the Dalit entrepreneurs, basically the entrepreneurs coming from the Dalit caste, because that's a more accurate term in my opinion. The castes are the one who are oppressed because every member of those community may or may not be oppressed, so to speak. So let's say when we talk about the entrepreneurs coming from the Dalit caste, which areas do we find them working in? There are very few of them who are into niche areas of technology or not. So what are the sectors they actually work in or they have been able to enter of late?
Yeah, so while I was doing my research, I interviewed approximately 2,000 entrepreneurs across India. And I have the proper vetted data for it, which sectors were they. So there were of course, we are moving step by step. We are right now mostly into the service sector. Those manufacturing sector we have come, that is in the leather works, which you'll find mostly people are into when I talk about manufacturing sector. But when we talk about other tertiary sector or the service sector, we are in security services, we are in housekeeping, contractors, sanitary aware, chemical, construction, stationery items, fabrication, food processing and packaging. These are the broad areas or the broad sectors, I would say, that we are.
When you're talking about security and housekeeping, you're saying that these are the Dalit entrepreneurs who are running the companies who provide these services.
Yes.
You're not talking about the traditional mode of caste service.
No. I'm talking about how these people, they have this team of maybe 100 and 150 people. They have come under some private limited. And then these people are working in a shopping mall or in some or the other with the housekeeping. And you know what, the most important point I'll tell you, while I was interviewing one of the housekeeping staff in one of the shopping mall, there was a sense of pride. There was a sense of joy, because you know what, the whole stigma around when you are working as someone as a sweeper, and when we're talking as a housekeeping, there is a difference, because the caste stigma is detached. With the new mechanical sewing machines, with the uniform, with the ID cards which you have been provided with, we see that there has been, that stigma is removed. And these people, they have a pride. They know that they are working in the shopping mall with the prescribed forms. So there we have also seen, because of these, the stigma has been removed and there has been some sort of mobility. So housekeeping, I meant these private limited companies who are there.
Yeah, but let's come to the other kind of companies. Food. You said food and packaging. So are there really Dalit businessmen present in the food sector? Because that's a very touchy issue in India. Lots of casting revolves around, not eating together. Now it's no longer that prevalent, but still those stigma is there. So are there Dalit entrepreneurs who are running food and beverage companies?
So in the food and beverage company, there's this company which is by a Naga entrepreneur, a tribe entrepreneur, who is basically, I'm sure you're aware of Naga chilies. So he is basically marketing those Naga chilies and trying to export these chilies. So when I meant the food and processing, they are involved in the making, in the cultivation, marketing, and then importing these. There is no, as per my data, the research which I did, there are no as such companies which are serving the food to these, which are serving the whole purity and pollution notion which we are trying to deter. But in the raw material, they are involved, like the Naga chili, which I just said, they're involved in those sort of business.
But then Naga chilies, those are tribals, and that's entirely different social dynamics in Northeast. What about the Dalits? Are they present in the sector or not?
No, not yet. Because mostly Naga chili food processing, I said, because of the Naga chili. But the Dalits primarily are into sanitary ware, are into housekeeping, the leather in agras, and the plastic and the metal tubes.
What about, are they present in the services sector, like consultancy, like business consultancy and so on? Or let's say in a more niche areas like technology and all, do you find any company which is run by the people coming from these castes?
In technology, sadly, there has not been much of the work which has been done. That is one niche area where the Dalit entrepreneurs need to work upon. Mostly when we talk about consultancy, yes, there has been a consultancy firm. There is a firm called known as Maitrey Developers, which is basically, it is by Gawai sir, who runs a Dubai-based company. And there he runs this consultancy firm, which is trying to, again, encourage and promote these young Dalit entrepreneurs, and they're preparing themselves for these investor meetings. So in that way, every year, it's a very interesting, because entrepreneurship, when we talk about, it's all about the capital, it's all about the network, it's all about the social or the cultural capital, as someone would put it. So when we're saying that he's trying to create through that consulting firm and giving them those know-how, the handlings, how to deal when you're going for the investors meet.
Yeah, but let's say when we talk about Dalit entrepreneurship and if you look at the wider movement of the Dalit caste, is about socioeconomic mobility. Earlier, the socioeconomic mobility was provided by the government job, where anyone who got a government job would be like, this condition would overnight change in the sense that you have better income, secure income, better respectability in the society, and so on. What is the pattern of socioeconomic mobility through the private sector route for these Dalit entrepreneurs?
As I said, the example which I gave you about this person who was working as a housekeeping. So when I said about that, he very specifically said that housekeeping, when I'm indulging into housekeeping, it is making the occupation caste neutral. Even if you are occupying even if you're doing the same sort of occupation, but because of these capitalist forces, there has been the new kind of ID, the new identity has been created, which is helping these people to rise above the stigma which were attached to our occupation. And of course, one of the very popular opinion when I was talking to all the entrepreneurs, they said the popular opinion is like, we have reservations, so we should rather be in the government sector. But this whole idea of not being a job seeker, but creation of the job opportunities, being a part of this creation, because post 1991, we saw that there was a complete change in the caste dynamics of India. There was a structural overhaul, and there was this new economic opportunities which were coming out. And the Dalit entrepreneurs, as they decided, the Dalits, that economic empowerment is the most important empowerment when we're talking about broad streaming. They realize this can be only achieved when we bring about these entrepreneur activities. And when one indulges in some sort of entrepreneur activity, the social mobility is happening automatically. Once you are an owner of a 50 lakh company, let's say that's a minimum turnover, you are sitting and dining and eating with the people, then it becomes more of a class struggle rather than just plainly when we're talking about a caste struggle. So the dynamics of the struggle in itself is changing because of these capitalist production, because of these capitalist forces which are coming in, and the whole idea, then it becomes into profit making. And when we talk about entrepreneurship, the main two components of entrepreneurship is risk-taking and profit-making. We as a Dalit, as a community, we had this aversion towards risk. We were always scared because we never had a network to bank upon. But with this entrepreneur activities, with this coming of Dicky, 3,000 entrepreneurs, more than 1 crore of turnover, have come together back in 2005. Which in itself is a huge, I would say, a complete arena of a new sphere which is developed when we talk about Dalit empowerment. So we know Kalpana Saroj. She's just won Padma Shri right now. She owns Kamani Tubes. And now she's venturing into film production. So, how these things, the spectrum, when you ask me about the sector, how the spectrum of the sectors are also broadening with the coming of these. So we see that the mobility there is happening. Of course, it's happening. The transition cannot happen overnight, but the transition has been happening post 2005, post 2014. There has been a lot of policies, government incentives which are helping. I'll tell you, for instance, there is Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, under which I'll tell you exact numbers. I'll just tell you under which approximately 11 lakh 61 lakhs and 1.14 lakhs of Dalit beneficiaries are there. 16.78 lakhs of Adivasi entrepreneurs have benefited from this scheme. And the total 22.34% of the total of the 19,000 crores which is disbursed for this has been benefited by the Dalit and the Adivasis, which is a huge amount. And there is a mobility which is happening for sure. And one more, when we talk about mobility, one more very important aspect is the access to the market has increased. Now the Dalits have the access to the market. We have a shopping mall. We have these business chamber houses. We have a lot of avenues where we can go and explore the new ideas also.
Yes, but when you're talking about socioeconomic mobility, you are again mentioning that sanitation worker who's working into housekeeping. You're talking from the perspective of the employee. I want to know from the perspective of the employer, who owns that company and what is his perspective? What is his experience?
So this company exactly is owned by someone in Uttar Pradesh. He belongs to a Parsi community, and he has hired 180 people, trained them for housekeeping, recruited them, gave them proper training, and these people are just working in these posh malls of Vasant Kunj in DLF ambience, where I did the research. So, you know what, it is not only about mobility, it's not just economic, there's spatial mobility, because these people have migrated from rural to urban area. There has been a spatial mobility, not as a bonded laborers, but with a dignity, with an ID card and working in these areas.
Yes, but then one would say that they just moved from the low-skill job in the villages to again low-skill job in the urban center. How do you explain that? Where is the mobility out there?
No, I'll say it's an upgradation of the skill. It's not the same skill that they're doing. And with the upgradation of the skill, the idea of dignity has also come up. Because now they are involved in the dignified job rather than working the same. And it's not this, you need a proper skill set when you are dealing with it. When you go and sit in these, when I was saying, they converse in English, which is again a big sense of pride and joy for them. That they are working, they're earning, even if they are earning 12,000 to 15,000 per month, and they're being recruited by these people from their community only. So there's this sense of pride, and they have formed these small communities, like the areas. When we talk about the spatial acquisition, they have these small areas where these people are coming, staying, working together, saving some money, sending some money back home. And the rural, when you talk about, of course, when you say that they have just moved, they have not just moved, they have just moved with an upgraded skill system, saving, they're sending some money back, and it is more in a structured market that they're working.
Okay, but let's say the sanitation and housekeeping is too stereotypical. Let's look at some other industry, construction, security, other things. What is the situation there? Let's say if a Dalit entrepreneur owns a company, let's say a construction company or something else, let's say people from what different background does he hire? Is it a mixed caste employment which he gives out, or same caste? Do other people work, cooperate together? What is the situation out there?
See, generally these people, what have done, let's take example of Agra. Let's take leather industry where it's flourishing there. So what these people have done, they have formed association, local business chamber houses. And these people, they're working each other. And very important point, which I observed during my research, they were trying to hire people, recruit people from their own community. Because there is this feeling of holistic development or holistic evolution of the community rather than just, and entrepreneurship is the best example for it. Because in entrepreneurship or in any sort of business, you need a people. You need a lot of people who have to come together. You need capital, you need people, capital in forms of labor capital you want people in construction. So there are people from the same community, they're coming together and they're building up enterprises. So this is a very new phenomena which I saw.
But then, Aditi, it brings to a very different question. It says that when there is a company which is not run by a Dalit and they hire the member of their own caste, then it becomes casteism, discrimination. You want private sector reservation, but you are doing the same thing out here. So is it not reinforcing the entire caste structure? Why they are not hiring people of other caste?
See, it is not, I would not say it's a reinforcement of the same caste structure, because again, these people, we are we have this feeling of community. Why have I also used the word Dalit, not scheduled caste, when I've written my thesis? Why? Because Dalit, there's a sense of commonness. There's a sense of coming togetherness when we talk about. So when these Dalit people, when these Dalits, the people, let's assume this Agra Tandi, which I'm talking about, this person, when he started this community, he said, I am taking up my traditional job. But I'm taking up my traditional job in a more structured and a form which is viable for market. I'm making these products which are viable. As I said earlier, we are already skilled caste. We are doing the same thing. We are taking up the same profession, but we are taking up the same profession under a very different mode. We are not working for someone. We are working for ourselves. We are working because we are skilled in doing that. That is why we are doing it. And we have come together and we are promoting each other's, the community. We are promoting the Dalits. We are promoting us. And when we are promoting, you're promoting your people, your community. You're not restructuring. You're not reinforcing the whole idea of state. The whole idea of the caste. Because when, let's say, urban company, let's pick up urban company. This has been, you must have seen. So I noticed during last year, I was in taking one of the services, which is bathroom cleaning. They have this deep cleaning. So I just did a research. It was, the sample size was only for 6 people. And all the people they had hired were either from the Dalit community. So one might, what you just said, might say that, you know what, bathroom cleaning is something which is traditionally associated with people from the marginalized community. That's why Urban Clap is doing this, right? It might come to one's head that why the sample size of 5 people I have picked up. But then I spoke to one of the person. He said, when the training is going on for these people, we all sit together. And then I asked, do you know people of other caste also there? The most common parlance, do you know the surname of the other people also who are working? He said, Didi, there is dominance of us, but you know, there are people from other community. Because under this whole mode of production where we are working, we are earning, we are a salaried people, we are employees, all of us are giving the same food, same training, and we are working under the same we are working for the same company. The whole idea here is profit accumulation, not the idea of caste or just enforcing the whole idea of this rigidity of the caste system.
Yeah, but you said that someone is working the leather sector. He's setting up a factory, or let's say he's setting up. Let's move away from the stereotypical jobs, because not all Dalit castes are engaged in those kind of jobs. Everyone, all Dalit caste, Dalit itself is a very wide term. You know, there are hundreds and hundreds of castes with different backgrounds. So let's say if there's a construction company, and that person who comes from a Dalit caste, is he hiring the member of his own caste? Or is he hiring the member of other Dalit castes as well? Or is he also hiring the member of castes who are not under the Dalit umbrella? What did you see there?
As per the field, I saw they were mostly hiring people from their own community.
That was my question. How is it different from, let's say, some upper caste person or some other Shudra caste or OBC caste person opening a company and hiring their own people? Then why this entire thing of discrimination and private sector reservation and all? I mean, I'm just asking. As a sociologist, how do you see this phenomenon?
See, as a sociologist, I would see this when I say that the same people, like community, the construction worker, as you said, they're hiring the same people. Let's even talk about the consultancy firm. Let's talk about a very niche area. Let's pick up a consultancy firm we pick up. So you have consultants in this real estate. So Kalpana Saroj, she started her business as a real estate. The clientele might differ. The clientele caters to people irrespective of the caste. But the people, when they're hiring, what I felt during the research, that they had this feeling that they always had been othered. They always had been marginalized. They were never included in this whole entrepreneur activities. So they felt now that they have the resources, now they have the access to the market, why not promote people from their own community? And what the question you're asking, how is it different if a Brahmin is doing the same thing, if a Kshatriya is doing the same thing? It is different because we are talking about a group which has traditionally and historically been marginalized. And now when they're taking that opportunities, ideally, if you ask me, of course, the opportunity should be open to everybody irrespective of the caste. But because there is still, of course, Dalit is a community, when we talk about it's a homogeneous group, they also have certain feelings for the community and they're trying to promote one people, which they all started with it. They were very emotional with all these things. They were like, it's about my self-respect. It's all about my self-dignity. So I would rather give this dignity to the people of my community. And I'll tell you most important why it is, because entrepreneurship, as I said earlier, it is again all about the access to the civil society, access to the NGO, access to the market, access to the government subsidies, access to a lot of things. So this accessibility, they feel that it should be passed on to people from my community, so that they should flourish, rather than going to some other community which is already flourishing. Because if you see the business arena, the business picture, you see dominance of 2-3 communities which is there in the business area. So after setting up these and understanding these dominance, they've understood that, entrepreneurship can only survive if we have a lot of people coming together, pooling in the resources. And it's better if this pooling in of the resources is done by the people from their own community. So I would say that just to avoid this feeling of being othering and to promote the feeling of togetherness, they are promoting the people from their own community. Of course, they have kept some eligibility. It's not like you're just belonging to my community, you come. We can hire you because it might be a preferential treatment, you might say. It is not positive, it's a preferential treatment might be given to them because we are trying to encourage them to come into this new venture. And another most important thing why they were promoting is like we have this popular opinion that let's take up a sarkari naukri hai, hame quota hai, hame fixed salary milegi, hame pension milega. But you need to move away. When we're talking about that we have to become job givers, we need to move away with this. And they were happy that they were able to move away because everybody is not carved out to become a professor or a sociologist. People have different, and as I said earlier, and I am reinforcing that we are a group of skilled artists, the skilled artisans, the Dalits. So is why.
Yeah, but they do hire people of other castes as well in these companies.
Yes.
What might be the proportion?
Mostly the construction worker, if we pick up, rarely, and you know what? People from other community doesn't also want to work. That's one of the important inference that I came, that people from the other community, they don't want to work under us. So this was, even if the opportunity is floating around, they know that the CEO or the person or the managing, the people whom you are going to report belong to a certain community. Generally, upper caste people were not willing to come up. So that position, that vacancy was vacant.
Is it present even in the niche areas like consultancy now, or it's a feature of construction and
it's a
low skilled? So again, low skilled jobs.
Yeah, it's again about the spatial. When we're talking about the rural and the urban areas, these all features differ. It all differs from the sector you're picking up or the areas you're picking up or the rural or the urban. There are a lot of for every sector which I have done the analysis, you know what, the variables are very different. One variable doesn't stand true for all. In this conversation, I can give you a generalized feature. But if you talk about like specific features, specific variables, it will differ from every community.
Like, give us an example as such.
So, like we have discussed about like the construction company, let's take up the tannery company, like the leather company Agra, because I've been working intensively with these people, and there was a huge summit which was planned also, which couldn't happen because of the COVID. These people, they said that when we are talking about the people in the factory where this leather they're working, people from upper caste, they don't want to even come and join. So these people these job opportunities are automatically taken by the people from this community.
By upper caste, you also mean OBC, or do you just mean the traditional upper caste?
So the recent, very interesting phenomena, very interesting question you have asked. You know what? I have seen the recent, when I was doing this research in Bihar about these artists and all, they told me that these days the fight is more with the OBC. Rather than with the upper caste. Because the Bihar caste dynamics, if you see, of course, Yadavs have been the Maurya. So the recent, when I was there in Rathi and doing the research, there was this Mukhya election going on. And the Yadavs were not promoting so when I was talking to the people, they say that now the caste dynamics have differed. So now they have more problem with the OBC people emerging rather than the upper caste people. But when you talk about the hiring of the job and the recruitment, I mean OBC and upper caste.
Okay. So yes, so you were saying something about leather industry, another thing.
Yeah, so leather industries, when I did my research, so they were not willing to join this job. They were not. They were involved. Now the upper caste also, let's talk about they were involved in the marketing and the packaging. because every product which you make, you need to go through a quality certification and everything. So it also depends on the which state of production you are involving what people.
Important point here.
Yeah, so the stage of production also differs. Now, when you take up, like you were talking about consultancy, let's take up a real estate consultant firm which was owned by Kalpana Saroj in Mumbai. Now, when we're talking about Mumbai as a space, of course, the broker who are doing the groundwork might belong to a local community, but the people who are sitting in the areas and talking about the real estate market, the fall and decline, and everything, those niche areas were taken by the people from other communities.
And that reflects the socioeconomic condition of these two different communities, right?
Yeah.
The access to education, the skills, and other things. Interesting point. This is what we actually expect to see in the job market. Other point is, what has been the role of the Modi government? Because you see, for the last 6-7 years, they have been promoting Stand Up India, Startup India. There are institutions which are giving out funds specifically for the scheduled castes. What has been the impact? What has been the feedback, and is the government planning something new as well?
Okay. So for this, I'll tell you very interesting phenomena which I came across. So we have this business chamber houses. We have Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce. We have Confederation of Indian Industries. We have Associated Chamber of Commerce and Industries of India. So these I have during my research, I have put them into traditional business chamber houses. With the coming of the Modi government, these traditional business chamber houses, which were again the lighthouse for the entrepreneurs, the main entrepreneur hub activities, we saw that there was inclusion of Dalit and because I've dealt with Dalit entrepreneurs into this, which I personally felt was a big step. Because when you're entering into entrepreneurship and you're able to get into the established institutions, because you know how this social mobility we discuss, this market, it also depends on the access to these institutions. For instance, FICCI has signed up with this MOU with this center called CSCC, Center for the Study of Caste and Capitalism. And what was the model they picked up? They were giving you training programs for the efficient supplier model. And they did buyer-seller meet across India. And only in January 2021, I'll tell you the exact, they did approximately 14 buyer-seller meets. Now, what is the whole idea of buyer-seller meet? So FICCI, when it was working with CSCC, it went to all these small areas, did a collaboration and collation with these local organization of those particular areas, and was giving the dissemination of information is another important area which during my research I came to that people are not aware of the schemes. Even when you talk about Dalit capitalism, which was a term coined by Chandrabhan Prasad in this book, Defying the Odds, he clearly mentions that the people are not aware that what are the schemes available for us. So FICCI is doing that work. And FICCI has been doing that work. And since 2017 to 21, when I was involved in this project, I saw that they were doing hand-holding or the support in this complete supply chain integrative. Now let's talk about CII, which again, it charted out a very detailed code of conduct to increase SC/ST entrepreneurs. What it did, it asked all its members to procure certain raw materials from SC and ST entrepreneurship. Now, under the procurement policy, which was again brought about, under that it is said that 20% of the raw materials should be procured from MSME. Out of that, 4% should be done from the Dalit entrepreneurs, which is a huge step. And in 2016 and 17, 292 PSUs were mandated to follow this. So you see this with the coming of this scheme. Now, another very important phenomena which came about. So now talking about these traditional chamber houses, we saw the emergence of new chamber houses, which was again based completely on caste affiliation, which we just discussed, which was completely based. Like we have Nilgiri Tribal Association. We have there's this Dalit Dalit Industrial Council, which is run by someone in Andhra Pradesh, Mamidala. We have Dicky. Now, what is the basic premise of these business chamber houses? It is based on the caste affiliation that you are trying to promote one group of people, one homogeneous group, which we call as Dalit. Because they were fighting for Dalit inclusion, they were fighting for financial inclusion. Dicky, now when we talk about Dicky, during the present Modi government, Dicky had signed MOU with State Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, Indian Bank, Indian Overseas Bank to provide and to help to implement the Stand Up India scheme, which has been implemented by the government. And during Giriraj Singh's regime, he emphasized on the fact that there should be a sync between the policy which is being made and the implementation of the policy, which is we have the policies, we have that Impact Investor Council since 1989, but what about the implementation? Implementation which has been happening post 2016 in this arena. Now, if you ask me about the specific the schemes which has been done, we have the government has come up with schemes like National Credit Guarantee Scheme. We have interest, which gives you interest-free loan. We have credit links capital subsidy for technology upgradation, in which again the government has given you certain subsidies. So under these, during the Modi government, during my research also, which was done during the Modi government, I saw that not only these policies were on the paper, there was implementation. Under Stand Up India, 2.5 lakhs of entrepreneurs were given. Under this, 61.14 lakhs was disbursed. So rather than just being on the paper, the implementation is happening. And the most important, another important fact, they are trying to collate, they're trying to collaborate with these local organizations which I mentioned, whether it is Buddhist Chamber of Commerce, whether it is Dicky, whether it is DIA. So during this time, there is a complete the collaboration with the traditional chamber houses, new chamber houses, and the policy. And all these three things, they are working in tandem with each other.
So what was your experience of dealing with the ministers of the Modi government, the bureaucrats? What was their attitude towards this issue? Because you must have met them, you must have done your field work and all. What did the people say? Is the government more responsive today?
Yes, it was. And the very positive aspect, I'll tell you, the creation of National SCST Hub, which is doing credit loans scheme. Everything is covered under SCST Hub. We have this creation of National NSIC, National Small Industry Corporation, which is just looking for the Dalit entrepreneurs. When talking about I'll share a particular incident. In 2017, we had this high monetary meeting, which was happening when Shri Giriraj Singh, he was the minister. So during that meeting, it was working. You know what? With the coming of these private enterprises, I have felt the whole stigma which is attached is being relegated, because we had this knowledge partner of KPMG. We had knowledge partner with this project. The knowledge partner was KPMG. They had done the proper report. They had prepared the report, and it was working in a more functional and more structured manner. We had the data. We know the dissemination. We know where the funds were allocated. And they were with this whole corporate culture, the PPT culture and all these things comes up. But with this PPT culture, what is one thing which I felt, there is more transparency. Because when I was sitting in that meeting, we saw specifically that dissemination of this 490 crores which is given, and how many buyer-seller meets and how many people are beneficiaries under that. So with the coming of these with the coming of these knowledge partners, we see that knowledge partners are not only dealing with the knowledge creation, but they're also looking for the loopholes. In sociology, we always talk about problematizing. It's a very common word we use, problematizing. So it's not about problematizing. It is about looking for the solution. And with the knowledge partner, when you have these private sectors working with the government, you have the best of the both, who are working for this emancipation of this particular community. So, of course, the problematization will take a back seat, no? Because we are talking about it's more solution-driven. And in this, another important, there was equal representation. There were people from FICCI, there were people from Dicky, there were people, entrepreneurs. You can get empaneled and you can talk about them. You had accessibility to the ministry. You had accessibility to the bureaucrats. When I was doing my research, so people... they were saying that the Dalits, they have the perceived idea of the state. So the perceived idea of the state, which they had in 90s, had broken, because initially they said that if we want to, अगर हमें एक हमारी फैक्ट्री है, मुझे कमर्शियल मीटर चाहिए, तो कमर्शियल मीटर जानने के लिए भाई मुझे लोकल BSCS हो गया या जो भी जिस एरिया का, उनके वहाँ के मुझे मैनेजर को या किसी को जानना पड़ेगा, तभी मेरा ये कमर्शियल मीटर लग पाएगा, which is the basic if you want to establish a factory. But with this hand holding, with this support, and with this coming of this was solved, because they had this portal where they can come up. And you know what? These meetings were held regularly. NSIC under P. Uday Kumar sir, they had this meeting on a monthly basis where Dalit entrepreneurs would be called that we are having and you can have this. In CII, they had this grand summit award ceremony in Ranchi again, which is mobilizing the Dalits and the tribals. And they have these, with the happening of these KPMG and coming of the collaboration of MSME and KPMG, you know what? Every area was covered in India. The buyer-sellers meet was held in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, in Gujarat. So the spectrum, the geographical, also the isolation what we talk about was broken. So I felt during this regime, because of these all policies and the coming and the collaboration, it has done indeed a good job. And it is not, I'm not saying I'm not because I have the data to prove it, because I have written my doctoral thesis.
Yes, so let's talk about what has been the reaction of the society, how these new entrepreneurs are received and perceived by the society. And I'm not talking about the employees, right? I'm talking about the owners of the company who might be living in a grandeur home now, who might be driving luxury cars. So what has been their experience? Because it's a new generational experience for most of them.
You know what? It's a very interesting question. I'll tell you why, because there has been a confidence building. The fact, let's talk about Milind Kamble. I heard him the other 2 weeks back. If we are talking about the stalwarts, let's talk about him. So Milind Kamble, there is this confidence. He says, as you know, social and cultural capital, we always talk about in sociology. He said that through these entrepreneurial activities, we have acquired that social and cultural capital. We have the direct accessibility to the bureaucracy. We are able to voice our opinion. We are not seeking jobs from someone. We are creating jobs for the people. So there is the whole sense of pride. When we talk about, I was interviewing one of the Dubai-based company, the CEO. He said that, you know what, I am working outsourced, but very interesting. Again, he is annual basis. He makes it a point to employ few Dalit entrepreneurs from India. And he gives them the proper training. So again, it is about, it is adding to the dignity of their life. They're not, political participation of the Dalit is one thing. That, we have political participation. But the capital accumulation, which is the actual, which helps you in building up one community, can only become by undertaking these economic activities. So we as a community, they felt that they are evolving. And they're evolving with a sense of dignity and pride in them. And they're able to create, and the most important factor, which is common to all the entrepreneurs that I spoke about, that they were having their own enterprises, that they're having their own office, that they're going to their own office, they're talking to their own people. They're not listening to someone, because they might not have a good experience with working with some other people. But then they have, even if they have opened up a small company with, let's say, 20 people, like in Saket, I was working with this property consultant. He's a past one, I was talking to him. He has a very small office in Saket area. But he says that every morning when I wake up and I go to that, they are not just the receivers of the charity. And with the coming of this present government, they feel that because of the policy and the implementation of the policy, and by implementation, I mean that the implementation is happening equitable. There's equitable distribution of even when we're talking about the implementation of these policies of the funds. They feel that they are not some people who are sitting here for charity. They are not demanding for equality and parity in all the decision-making processes.
Interesting phenomena. So my last question to you would be, do you think that capitalism is the answer to India's problem of caste discrimination and stratification? That capitalism replaces the birth-based system with the wealth-based system, which might be a better deal for the Dalits?
That's a very, how would I say, very... to answer to that, let's say, when we talk about capitalism, people just say that capitalism in itself is a form of exploitation. When we talk about it's a form of exploitation. But initially one might feel so, because it talks about class struggle and you have and have nots and all these premises. But talking to the Dalit entrepreneurship, I felt that this narrative has completely changed. The narrative has changed because they feel now they're not discriminated, at least on the basis of the caste or the thing that the identity they were born with. A of course, the struggle is there. The class struggle is there. The struggle to the network, the market is there. But the struggle, me or the Dalit entrepreneurs, they feel that, and they're very happy when I use the term Dalit capitalism, because they feel that that is the solution, and that is the solution to break this caste-based discrimination. And when they talk about caste capitalism, they also like Dalit capitalism. They say that financial inclusion is happening because of capitalism, which is a very important parameter when they talk about empowerment. So they are okay with the class struggle and this whole, but they are very happy that at least they're having financial inclusion, and they're able to live a life of dignity right now with their own entrepreneur activities which they have undertaken.
Interesting, Aditi. I think this was a very interesting discussion, but we have exceeded our time limit as it is. So I think we have to keep or spare something for the next round of discussion as well. But thanks a lot, Aditi, for coming to the show and discussing this very interesting aspect.
No, thank you so much, Abhinavji. And you have tricked me into asking a lot of questions about capitalism. But yeah, but it was very interesting, and I hope we had a very constructive discussion on these. And we need to further our discussion, because every day there are new dynamics which are happening, which are bringing about the structural changes. So Indeed. This kind of engagement is very important. Yeah.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Thank you, and thank you, audience, for listening to us. Please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. You can also join as a member to support the channel. Hoping to see you soon. Thank you once again.